Revamping the railway network plagued by obsolete and dilapidated infrastructure is government priority as a glimpse plan for express train on the lines to decongest highway traffic is examined by the Railway Interministerial Committee. Over 200 billion CFA francs of remittances are contributed annually by Cameroon's diaspora. Their transfer of resources and know-how to the country for investments are spotlighted tonight. The immunization campaign against the coronavirus gains steam in the country as the AstraZeneca vaccine is awaited in 3 days. Communication and public health ministers pass on the importance of boosting one's immunity. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Those are the headlines of the 7:30 News.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.
Welcome back. The impact of railway insecurity on the economy is huge, and with plans to decongest highway traffic and to encourage express train transportation, the population has been enjoined to increase their sense of responsibility. Transport Minister Jean-Ernest Masséna Ngale-Bibehe outlined the importance during the extraordinary session of the Interministerial Committee for Railway Infrastructures and the Travellers Transport Committee. Luma Slim Davis has the details.
As the joint extraordinary session of the Interministerial Committee of Railway Infrastructures and the Travellers Transport Committee held, worries that should be given close attention include the introduction of a complementary railway transportation service.
The government have rehabilitated 11 wagons, and we just received 4 locomotives. Very soon, we will have a new train between DOUALA and YAOUNDÉ. It will not be the intercity, but an express train.
With the African Nations Cup expected to take place next January, it is important to ease transportation of goods and services, which at the moment is tight.
The train is very comfortable, and the seats are new and very comfortable. I cannot talk about the price now because the train is not yet on the field.
However, attention is also on providing solutions plaguing the railway sector. These include implementing a railway safety action plan, organizing public awareness campaign, and building pedestrians' walkways around railway facilities.
The railway network in the country is in dire need of refurbishing, as the majority of the rail lines are either abandoned or dilapidated. Feasibility studies on the Yaoundé-N'Djamena extension line linking Cameroon to Chad are currently being finalized. Kilian Dandifon talked with an expert on the state and perspectives of railway development. Here's his report.
50 years in use, Cameroon railway lines have instead experienced infrastructural retrogression.
We have a railway network which is very old, from DOUALA, Mbanga to Kumba. We have also the section from Mbanga to Konsamba.
The DOUALA-Yaoundé line, which has resisted degradation storms, is also facing challenges.
We are about to finish with the rehabilitation from Bachenga to Ka, and that makes 175 kilometers. The section from Belabo to Ngaoundéré and the one from DOUALA to Yaoundé, and that makes about 650 kilometers.
Despite the setbacks, Cameroon is finalizing plans to modernize and extend the line from Ngaoundéré to N'Djamena in Chad.
The head of state have signed the decree habilitating the Ministry of Economy to sign the convention with the African Development Bank on the 20th of February of this year. The consultant have signed the contract to start the studies. We are just waiting for the signature of the Chadian Ministry of Transport and the Cameroonian Ministry of Transport.
The railway is unavoidably one of the traffic decongesting alternatives that should be given due priority in every development plan.
From the railway network, the vaccination crusade against the coronavirus in the South region is on course, with some 7,000 doses of the Sinopharm vaccine expected to be administered. The launch was led by the governor of the region, Felix Ngelengele, who outlined that workers in the health sector will be prioritized. The South region counts more than 900 active coronavirus cases. Bernice Atabong tells us more.
The governor of the South region, Felix Ngelengele, was the pioneer person in Abolova to receive the first dose of the anti-COVID-19 vaccine. By accepting to be immunized, the official wants to encourage others.
To appeal on the population to go through this important exercise. It's preventive measures against COVID-19.
The launch of the vaccination operation at the Abolova Regional Hospital was an opportunity for health officials to educate the public on the Sinopharm vaccine, which will be used during the campaign. For the past months, the number of COVID-19 cases in the south has surged. The region now has more than 900 active cases with 44 deaths. Public authorities are still insisting that barrier measures have to be respected. Some 7,200 doses of the Sinopharm vaccine have been distributed to 13 vaccination sites in the South region so that health personnel and vulnerable persons can be immunized against the coronavirus.
Still on the disease, the personnel of the Central Treasury in Yaoundé are undergoing massive screening for the coronavirus to keep the disease under check in the structure. The initiative is triggered by the Paymaster General of the unit after a case was detected in the premises recently. Baldwin Sama reports on the exercise.
It is a routine activity these days at the Yaoundé Central Treasury, with staff subjected to COVID-19 testing after one of their colleagues was tested positive recently. Here, staff of the different departments and services, one after the other, get tested.
We decided to test everybody. That's why we are all here. We asked the units of COVID in the Central Hospital, and they accepted to come and test all of us here this morning.
Anxiety could easily be read on the faces of some who waited to be tested. Here, some measures to break the contamination chain of the virus are put at the disposal of the staff of the Central Treasury. In partnership with some councils in Yaoundé, the premises of the Yaoundé Central Treasury are regularly disinfected as one of the moves by the Paymaster General to keep the deadly coronavirus at bay, as he regularly supervises the screening process, encouraging his colleagues to adhere.
Still in health news, a surgical intervention for persons diagnosed with arterial vascular malfunction is ongoing at the Yaoundé General Hospital. This is thanks to an exchange program between the institution and the visiting neurosurgery professors of a German university. Yoti Kalelisonga reports on the operation that will last 11 days to check arterial vascular malfunction, which is a silent killer and a major cause of strokes.
Of a patient's arteriovenous malformation, AVM, studied before surgery begins. Two seasoned neurosurgeons are at the core of the intervention. With the help of a surgical microscope, they are separating the normal blood vessels from the abnormal ones to prevent a rupture, which can sometimes lead to paralysis.
Actually trying to exclude it from the normal circulation, because it was compressing the spinal cord and then created weakness in the lower limbs of the child in question.
Catheter-based techniques such as embolization to block abnormal vascular channels are being applied to correct the condition. So far, 5 Cameroonians have undergone surgery.
Our aim is to keep it on this pace, so that when I leave in 2 weeks, Professor John Joe will do this surgeries by himself and keep a good standard on the hospital.
The Yaoundé General Hospital is with the creation of this neurosurgery center, reaping from her exchange program with Germany, and hopes to be a reference in the sub-region.
In one of our lead programs, the Cameroonian diaspora community has been identified as a strong force to thrust the country's development endeavors. Their contributions range from remittances to technological transfer, social projects and political involvements. Annual remittances for family support and investments stand at over 200 billion CFA francs. Constantine Baum reports on the input of the over 8 million diasporans.
The contemporary Cameroonian diaspora movement started in the 1960s. The living conditions, collective ambitions, the story of a peculiar lifestyle and individual adventures are some of the reasons that push them to live for countries with better living conditions. The migratory phenomenon has increased over time, and today the diaspora movement counts about 8 million Cameroonians with diverse skills.
They are in management. They can be people who work in enterprises, or they can build their own business, health, manufacturing, transport.
Even though they live far away from their home, they are just as interested in the development of their homeland as home-based residents.
In pharmacological industry out here as well, people who can be able to produce the reagents that we use in our labs in Cameroon, and they can be able to produce simple things like soap or like perfumes. But we should teach our children that these things are out there. Cameroonians get involved in transport infrastructure, building rail networks.
Remittances are an important component of the diaspora's contribution to development, as it is through it that most of other development activities become possible. It is estimated that 200 billion CFA francs get to Cameroon through remittances. The government of Cameroon has recognized their role and continue to work on strategies that will develop a better synergy with the diaspora.
Eloquent examples of Cameroonians in the diaspora who have transferred resources, knowledge and ideas back home do exist. The likes of the US-based icon in African technology, Rebecca Enonchong, and the UK-based medical doctor Theodore Ngacher with an ultra-modern clinic in DOUALA are telling of their prowess. Beatrice Lawson presents some of the outstanding samples of diaspora investments in this report.
She is one of the main voices for digital resolutions in Africa. Rebecca Enonchong, a Cameroonian technology entrepreneur based in the US, has established an AppTech office branch in Cameroon where she supports entrepreneurs from tech hubs and mentors several technology startups. Dr. Theodore Ngacher, another Cameroonian in the diaspora, who deems it wise to invest home and boost growth in his native country, is setting up an ultra-modern clinic which will provide employment for local healthcare staff and step up health offers in the economic capital, DOUALA.
I have lived and worked in Europe for over 38 years and feel it's about time I give something back to my country. I have therefore convinced some colleagues in the diaspora to contribute in setting up a medical center in DOUALA. We hope to create an infrastructure that will support the government in its quest to achieve universal health coverage.
Cameroon's need for a world-class hotel pushed this businessman, who shuttles between US and Portugal, to build a classy hotel in Buea, one of the country's host towns for next year's African Nations Cup, seen as a timely move. Stunning examples of Cameroonian diaspora transferring resources and knowledge to invest back home.
Even though the Cameroonian diaspora is being applauded for its output through remittances, some school of thought hold that their contributions can be improved. This is possible if there is a feasible diaspora investment plan initiated by the states, the provision of tax incentives and the review of administrative bottlenecks. Clarice Aritakan explains.
Good, but could do better is how many Cameroonians of the diaspora rate their economic ambition for their home country. For this to happen,
there is a need to create a Secretariat of State for the diaspora with a role to coordinate diaspora activities, including investment like it is obtained in other countries. Secondly, we should be thinking of creating a diaspora investment board by giving them the necessary encouragement, the necessary technical support, and the necessary resources. We need to be tax
tax-friendly. By tax-friendly, the diaspora will be very much encouraged to bring their goods and services to Cameroon.
Real estate, agriculture, healthcare, education, and leisure are amongst the investment interests. This has, however, not been without challenges from different quarters, prompting calls for more business-friendly bottoms.
The presence of the diaspora in the government, but also the presence of the diaspora in the parliament. Why is it so difficult for the diaspora to acquire a land in Cameroon, for example? Why is it so difficult for the diaspora to deal with the port of DOUALA? We need to change all that.
More input, it is believed, will pave the way for the involvement of the Cameroon diaspora in underexploited sectors such as ICTs, renewable energy, research, and innovation.
And now on to diplomacy. The new British High Commissioner designate to Cameroon, His Excellency Christian Denis Maclure, has presented his credentials to the Minister of External Relations, Mbila Mbila. The diplomat who replaces Rowan James Laxton was introduced to the minister's close collaborators in his first official audience. This was preceded by the presentation of letters of accreditation as High Commissioner Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the United Kingdom to Cameroon. In other news, relations between Cameroon and Turkey have come under review during an audience granted the new Turkish ambassador to Cameroon, His Excellency Volkan Isekci. The ambassador was received by the Ministers of the Economy, Forestry and Wildlife, as well as small and medium-sized enterprises, where he pledged to foster economic ties with Cameroon. Romeo Kenny has the details.
At the Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife, His Excellency Volkan Isekci and Minister Jules Dorendongo revisited bilateral ties between both Cameroon and Turkey to improve the forestry sector. For his part, Minister Alamin Ousmane May of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, and the diplomat exchanged on ameliorating infrastructural projects.
Different areas, the infrastructure investment and in the field of economic possible cooperation with regard to the Cameroonese people.
Establishing a strategic partnership between Turkish and Cameroonian companies in view of the 2021 Turkey-Africa Economic and Trade Forum was the concern between the ambassador and Minister Achille Basilikeng III of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises.
We will see which field and which area we can develop those relations in the benefit of the Cameroonese small and medium enterprises and the craft industries.
The diplomat also revisited cooperation ties with Finance Minister Louis-Paul Motaze. Age 49, His Excellency Volkan Isekci presented his letters of credence last March 30.
Despite our efforts, COVID-19 plunged many families into mourning and seriously hampered the functioning of our economy and society.
The availability of 200,000 doses of the Sinopharm vaccine against COVID-19 has kept most persons infected worrying about how they can have access. Another preoccupation is the effectiveness of the jabs and the adverse effects. Baldwin Sama and Dr. Eric Tande attempt an explanation on these issues from the Public Health Emergency Operations Center. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Esther Kima. Many are those who are happy with the availability of these vaccines in Cameroon, but there are some others who are still worried as to what are some of the problems these vaccines will solve. Let's find out from our guest tonight, Dr. Njo Andreas. He is an epidemiologist. Good evening to you, Doctor.
Good evening, Baldwin.
What are these vaccines? We're talking about the Sinopharm vaccines available in Cameroon already. What problems are they expected to solve?
Thank you so much, Baldwin. I think what is already short to all of us is that the burden of COVID is a great challenge to the entire world and to Cameroon in particular. So, to that effect, this vaccine, as with many other vaccines that I've introduced before, is a solution to the problem because vaccination is, of course, the most efficient method of disease control and prevention. So if the Cameroon population is benefiting from this vaccine, it is already a way forward to say that we are sure that we are going to reduce the burden of the disease in our country.
Meaning, therefore, that whether you are tested positive for COVID-19 or not, you should adhere to being administered the vaccine.
Of course, for those who are positive with COVID at the moment, they can't receive the vaccine immediately. They will have to wait for at least 6 months before getting the vaccine. But every other person is supposed to receive this vaccine. And at this moment, it's for frontline health workers, the health workers. And hopefully, as the days unfold, the government will ensure that there are more vaccines for the rest of the population.
Thank you so much, Dr. Njo. Andreas, for being a guest this evening. We should likewise appreciate the availability of these vaccines in Cameroon. At the same time, continue respecting the different outlined barrier measures by the government of Cameroon to limit the spread of the coronavirus. Back to you, Esther Kima.
Thanks very much, Baldwin Samuel, for joining Dr. Andreas Njo to provide clarifications. In related development, government is highlighting the importance of immunization against the coronavirus and outlining that 20% of the population will be vaccinated as the country awaits doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine in 3 days. The Minister of Communication, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, and that of Public Health, Manawudu Malashi, gave the details of the vaccination plan during a joint press conference today. Cynthia Saptala was there and now reports for the 7:30 News.
By the 17th of April, about 400,000 doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine will be arriving the country. During the joint press conference in Yaoundé, the Minister of Public Health said over 1,700,000 doses of this vaccine has already been pre-ordered and should be delivered by May. Concerning the other COVID-19 vaccines, Minister Manawudu Malashi revealed that apart from the 200,000 doses of Sinopharm already being administered nationwide, 4 million doses of Johnson & Johnson have already been pre-ordered, as well as 120,000 doses of Sputnik COVID-19 vaccine. Based on the National Distribution Plan outlined since January 2021, it is 20% of the population that is targeted, mostly those with a high risk of contracting the virus, that is, healthcare workers, people with medical conditions, individuals above 50 years, administrative staff, security forces, or frontline workers. According to members of government, the objective is not to overwhelm hospitals, given Cameroon has over 61,000 cases of the coronavirus and about 1,000 deaths so far. Also addressed in the press conference in Yaoundé were rumors surrounding the COVID-19 vaccine, where the Minister of Public Health reassured the media that the government's decision and choice of vaccine will always be in the interest of protecting the population. While reinforcing the need to get vaccinated, they also said the COVID-19 vaccine is voluntary.
On to education. For a smooth completion of the 2020-2021 school year, the Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Nalo Valyunga, has outlined the intensification of distance and e-learning. She reiterated the programs as well as the necessity of barrier measures in the school milieu. Joyce Tata accompanied her on a tour to some schools in Yaoundé. Here's a report.
3 days into the third and last term of the 2020-2021 school year, secondary education bus sets out to ascertain its hitch-free unfolding, even at the rural level.
The barrier measures, that's the first thing that we wanted to see. Everybody is very aware of it. We have told them, even while in class, the teacher who is teaching must ensure that the students have their masks. So everything is very fine. I am quite satisfied.
A more challenging school year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, giving room for e-learning. Statistics indicates that more than 2,000 students in Cameroon use the internet for live stream revision, an indispensable tool the government is bent on amplifying its use.
They're going to be having more live classes, interactive classes, now for the students of the examination class. But apart from that live revision, they should take note that there are courses online. We're trying to break the barrier between being in class and being virtual.
All in a bid to register excellent results by the end of the school year, void of any loss of life due to the coronavirus pandemic.
And over in the northwest region, effective teaching and learning has begun in most schools in the city of Bamenda. Authorities have resolved to organize catch-up classes to complete the syllabus and to ensure the success of candidates in end-of-year and official examinations. Ola Titanki presents the atmosphere that reigns in this report.
An economics teacher at Government Bilingual High School, Bayele Nkwen, giving out lessons to Form 3 students. Learners in the other classes are all settled in, and effective teaching is ongoing.
I was expecting 2,400 students, and we have 2,210. We will insist on catch-up so that the program should be covered.
The principal of Government Bilingual High School, Bamenda Nkwe, cautions the students to be assiduous and reminds them on the need to respect the COVID-19 barrier measures.
The two entrances into the school, we have water with soap where the students are washing their hands. We also ensure that the students they put on their face masks together with the teachers.
In other parts of the town, classes are unfolding smoothly with teachers and learners promising to show commitment in order to experience a hitch-free end of school year.
In this advertorial, the Tarikon Cooperative Credit Union has stood out as the best microfinance institution in the Central African sub-region. The distinction was given during the 18th edition of the Guardian Post Annual Achievement Award in Yaoundé. It was recognized for its reliable and customer-friendly policy. Maimouna Njoya has the details.
The upsurge of the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively influenced the economic sector in Cameroon. But in the midst of this challenge, the Tarikon Cooperative Credit Union, TACUL, is striving to meet the needs of its customers. Resilience and reliability are amongst the factors which worked in favor of this microfinance institution.
Within the crisis period, especially in the northwest and southwest regions, they're able to take into consideration the poor people. They're able to increase interest on loans and the interest on members' savings to 6% that no other credit or financial institution has ever done.
Yaoundé's ceremony to acknowledge the efforts of prominent actors in various sectors enabled organizers to enjoin the happy laureates to keep on. This was in the presence of the representative of the Canadian High Commissioner to Cameroon, the Nigerian Consul Generals to the Northwest, Southwest and Littoral regions, as well as the Secretary of the National Episcopal Conference.
Tarikon is one of the microfinance institutions that have implanted automatic teller machines, ATM, in most of its branches. With such development, you see that members can withdraw money at any time and even on public holidays. We give soft loans to petty traders, buyam, sellam, contractor, and most of these loans are without collateral at a very small interest rate.
The 18th edition of the Guardian Post Annual Achievement Award has thus ended with the Metropolitan Archbishop of DOUALA, His Lordship Samuel Kleda, crowned the Man of the Year for his outstanding endeavor in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
In sports tonight, we investigate the marketing of football clubs in the country. A good number of Elite One football clubs have signed contracts with sponsors that provide sports kits for their squad. While it is proven beneficial for the contracting parties, Baldwin Summer reports on how these deals are negotiated.
It has become a must for some Elite One clubs these days, making use of sports marketing by wearing jerseys bearing logos and information about the different sponsors. Clubs like Coton Sport of Garoua, Canon Football Club of Yaoundé or PWD of Bamenda are attracting more fans thanks to the win-win partnership with their sponsors.
The recent successful African Nations Championship in Cameroon is one of the reasons. Secondly, the need to survive in a competitive sport market.
These sponsors provide sports kits for the different clubs depending on how the contract is negotiated.
The club has to give a contract to an agency, and the agency will go out there to look for sponsors. After getting the contract from the club, the agency will build a marketing document, a sellable marketing document, because that's the point.
Most clubs having these contracts with sponsors prefer maintaining them because of benefits derived.
Clubs benefit in two ways. Firstly, it is financial, given that some money is handed to the clubs that permits them survive. Secondly, there is exchange of services.
It may be the case with Canon of Yaoundé, Coton Sport of Gawa, PWD of Bamenda today, but the wish is to see a breakthrough for sports marketing in the country.
When you communicate, you have visibility. And when you have visibility, you have enterprises that will follow you.
The urge to see this realized remains a major concern for sports actors.
Revamping the railway network plagued by obsolete and dilapidated infrastructure is a priority of government. A game plan for express train on the lines to decongest highway traffic has been examined today by the Railway Inter-Ministerial Committee. That was our main story tonight on the 7:30 News. More news comes up at 8:30 p.m. with Adel Mbala. I'll be back tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. God willing. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to our programs on CRTV and on CRTV News. Good night.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.